So on the last episode, we talked about who I think is going to make the college football playoff, and I didn't have some of the preseason favorites that others had. I don't think Ole Miss is going to make the college football playoff. I don't think Florida State is going to make the college football playoff, especially after losing the season opener to Georgia Tech. That just only kind of reinforces that I feel pretty strongly about what I thought was going to go down. So today I'm going to tell you how I think the college football playoff goes. Who makes the semifinals, the finals, who takes home the gold trophy at the end of the year. So here's what I'm thinking. Obviously, I had Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma State, and North Carolina State as my buys. I don't feel super confident about those last two, by the way. But Notre Dame, Missouri in game number 1 of the 8-9. I think Notre Dame, the 8 seed in my projections, would beat Missouri in South Bend. In the 5-12, Liberty, 13-0, going to probably, in my opinion, 11-2 Texas, who has lost to Georgia twice, once in the regular season, once in the SEC championship game. Texas would put a hurt on Liberty in this scenario and move on to play NC State. Alabama, Penn State. Penn State going to Tuscaloosa. Don't think that goes well for the Nittany Lions. Alabama moves on to play Ohio State. Oregon versus the U. Give me the Ducks in the old Mario Cristobal Bowl, and they move on to play Oklahoma State. So the semifinal, or I guess not the semifinals, the quarterfinals. Notre Dame, Georgia. Dogs. North Carolina State, Texas. Horns. Buckeyes, Crimson Tide. Buckeyes. Cowboys, Ducks. Ducks. I think, and very rarely does this stuff go to plan, but you know what? I'm going to call it that way anyway. I'm going to say that the semifinals are just rematches from the SEC and Big Ten conference championship games. I think it's hard for somebody to beat another team 3 times in a year. I think Georgia goes into the semifinals. What is that? 14-0 to play Texas, who they've beaten twice. Give me the Longhorns to move on to the national championship game. Ohio State, Oregon. I think Ohio State has beaten Oregon twice in this scenario. Give me the Buckeyes. I realize that that's hypocritical. I realize that the idea that, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. Yes. Is it impossible? No. But I think we're going to see two games for a third time. That Texas is going to beat Georgia in the semifinal. Ohio State is going to beat Oregon in the semifinal. And we get an Ohio State-Texas national championship. Thy will be done. And Ohio State finds a way to win and that's got storylines too. Like Quinn Ewers started his career at Ohio State. I think there's still some animosity there a little bit from Ohio State fans to Quinn Ewers that, you could have stayed, maybe should have stayed, whatever the case may be. He wouldn't have played as much. I guess maybe he would have played over Kyle McCord. You like to think that would have been the natural choice, but I think all things considered, things have probably worked out okay for both sides. Quinn Ewers got to play for his kind of hometown team that he grew up loving. Ohio State, CJ Stroud, things went pretty well there, and I think they feel pretty comfortable and confident with Will Howard. And I think Will Howard has to be just good enough to get Ohio State to the national championship game. But there's a part of me that, I think if you polled the majority of college football pundits or the average college football fan going into 2024, they would tell you that Georgia's going to play Ohio State for the national championship game. And very rarely does it go like chalk, right? Very rarely is it, okay, the higher seed, the lower seed, I guess, technically, team wins, and it's 1 versus 2, and Ohio State's 15-0 at that point. Georgia's 15-0. I don't think it shakes out that way. You got to pick some upsets. You got to pick some wild cards to make the top 12, right? It's not going to just be everybody that's in the top 10 right now. Like I would say that people who chose Florida State to be in the college football playoff after their performance against Georgia Tech probably don't feel very good about it. And by the end of the season, they might feel great about it. Florida State might exercise all their demons. They might teach DJ Uyunglele to throw the football down the field, and they make the college football playoff. That's part of the fun. But my predictions, I picked Texas. I've told you for a while, I'm big on Texas, even with the injuries in the preseason. I think Quinn Ewers is going to have a very, very, very good season, which we'll get to here in a little bit. I think Ohio State's defense is good enough to carry them. I think Will Howard can play well enough at the quarterback position with the running backs that they have, and Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, that they can get to the college football playoff. And their path isn't insanely ridiculous to win the Big Ten, get a first round bye in the college football playoff. Alabama versus Ohio State is going to be a tough one. Ohio State versus Oregon for a third time is going to be a tough one. But you get the benefit of the week off to rest, repair with the bye that Alabama and Oregon aren't going to have. So I think Ohio State beats Texas in a very good, competitive, well-played national championship game. So that's what I think shakes out. I want to know what you think. I know that not everybody's going to look at my predictions, especially the 12 teams that make it, and agree or think that even I'm sane. But I just think there are Mizzou and Miami's paths to the college football playoff are not very difficult. I don't think Liberty's path to the college football playoff is very difficult. I don't know that I believe that they are top 10 or 12 teams in America, but that's not what decides who gets in. And I think that's an important little kind of nugget to point out. So my prediction, Ohio State beats Texas in the national championship game. If you remember last year, I picked LSU to win the national championship. That didn't pan out. But I did pick Jaden Daniels to win the Heisman Trophy, and that did pan out. So I felt really good about that on like August 31st. I'm like, hey, here's what's going to happen. Jaden Daniels go win the Heisman Trophy in December. And he did. So I'm going to make my Heisman Trophy prediction, and it's somewhat similar to last year where I thought, and this has been the case for a while, that generally, especially if you're a very good team, your quarterback is probably going to be in the discussion to win that trophy, right? I don't know that Stetson Bennett was ever anywhere close to being the best player in college football, but he was the quarterback for the back-to-back national champs, so he got to go to New York. So when that's sort of the history, the trend is the best player on the best team, I'm going to pick Quinn Ewers to win the Heisman Trophy. Now, I don't think that Texas is going to be the best team, but is he going to be head and shoulders above Carson Beck? I think so. Is it going to be, if Texas is where I think Texas is going to be and go, it's going to be because Quinn Ewers played exceptional football. Exceptional football. So I think that's an important thing to also remember. Like LSU last year was where they were competitively because Jaden Daniels was very good, because he carried them to where they got. I think Texas is going to rely on Quinn Ewers to play high-level football for a long time in 2024 and probably for the duration of 2024. And I think he's prepared to live up to that billing. So if they're going to be an SEC championship caliber team, if they're going to be the top non-bye team in the college football playoff, it's because Quinn Ewers is very good. So I'll pick Quinn Ewers to win the Heisman Trophy and have a really, really, really good 2024 season. So those are my predictions. Let me know who you think is going to win the Heisman Trophy, by the way. It's fun to look back later and look at, I'm sure that there were people that probably, I don't know what the odds were, that DJ Uiagalelei might have won the Heisman Trophy. It's probably pretty fun to bet on that. And now it doesn't look so great. But it is fun to look back in the comments later and be like, oh, you know what? This person was dead right. This person was dead wrong. Let me know what you think. Who do you think is going to take home that stiff arm trophy? I want to hear from you. If you're new to the podcast, every Sunday throughout the college football season, and does feel great, by the way, to be looking at college football yesterday. I know I've somewhat railed against this in the past. I'm just a quick sidebar. That I believe big-time non-conference games should be played in on-campus stadiums. Now, if you have to go to neutral sites to expand series or expand entice somebody to play a big-time non-conference game, then so be it. I don't know how you watch Florida State Georgia Tech yesterday and not want your team to play in Dublin, Ireland. That's just such a fun atmosphere. The stadium is cool. It's not this huge, gigantic steel monolith just designed to cram as many asses into seats. Like, it's got character. It's exciting. It looks like just a fun environment for the fans, for the players, for the Irish people that are like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but this is cool. I don't know how you watch that and not wish, like, man, I wish our team plays in Ireland at some point, because I think it's just a cool spot to be in. Everything about it just looks awesome. And I don't know how you don't look at that and be like, can I pinch the pennies to fly on Aer Lingus and go to Dublin, Ireland? I don't know. But it just looks like a badass environment, and it's a lot of fun. The games have been pretty cool and interesting when they've been over there. It looks like a cool experience for the players, the fans, the teams, the universities. I'm in on the Ireland games. But every Sunday after college football, I give you the Stiff Arm Trophy update. I'm not a Heisman Trophy voter. I'd like to be. If you can give me, if you're watching this and you have that power, let me know. I'd love to vote. But I tell you who I would vote for the Heisman Trophy each week, which is preposterous, right? After 1 week of games where there were, 4 FBS teams in action, or I guess 4 FBS games in action. But damn it, you can't do it all season if you don't start after week 0. So here's my Heisman Trophy ballot after week 1. Haynes King, obviously, hands down, the Heisman Trophy winner after week 0. Goes a whopping 11 of 16 for 146 yards through the air. Also rushed for 54 yards. You could probably argue, and you might be right, that Jamal Haynes, not Haynes King, but Jamal Haynes deserves the Heisman Trophy. 11 carries, 75 yards, almost 7 yards per carry, 2 tutties in the win over Florida State, when I don't know that many people were picking the Yellow Jackets to win that one, but give them a ton of credit. They were 5-3 in the ACC last year, flew a little bit under the radar, but they were much more physical than Florida State, and they did what they knew they could execute, and I think that's important. They knew what they could and could not do. They knew their limitations. They didn't cross that line and expect their players to do things that they couldn't get done. They controlled the ball well, tackled well defensively. I think Georgia Tech was pretty impressive. Now, I'm not going to say, like, put the Yellow Jackets in the ACC title discussion. I don't know that that's the case. But that's a great win for them, no matter what happens the rest of 2024. Like, they deserve a lot of credit. And then my number 2 is Nevada QB Brendan Lewis. He was 14 of 26, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, rushed for 77 yards on 18 carries. It's a nice first week of the year stat line for Brendan Lewis. Unfortunately, the Wolfpack lost to SMU 29-24. And then finally, Braden Schrager, just like he was last year in the week 0 performance, Braden Schrager makes my Heisman Trophy number 3. He was 50% completion percentage, 17 of 34 for 203, 2 touchdowns, rushed for 38 yards and another 2 touchdowns. I think Hawaii is fun to watch. I like staying up late and watching the Warriors. Got to get off the spectrum. Like, give me on ESPN Plus or something. Make it easier to watch you, because I think they're fun to watch. And Braden Schrager doesn't get the love he deserves because they're playing in the middle of the night for the overwhelming majority of the country. Last night, before I went to bed, I was like, "Hey, Alexa, tell me what's the score of the Hawaii game?" I was like, "Oh, it's 7-0 with 40 seconds to go in the first quarter." It's like 12:45 a.m. And my wife is like, "The first quarter?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's Hawaii. They're 6 hours behind us. They're just getting going." Yes, but they are fun to watch. And Braden Schrager's a really good quarterback who doesn't get his due. So I like to get him then in there at the week 0 Heisman Trophy update, because that's the only time he's going to be on that list. But that's a look at the Sunday Stiff Arm update. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. On YouTube here, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode here of the Daily Huddle.